What's up, Periscope family? It's your girl Ike here, and today we talking about orders of protection. All right, there's a lot of misunderstanding about order of protections, and I want to just get through some of them. I know a lot of people misuse order of protections. Unfortunately, anytime there is a provision under the law, there is always going to be a chance for abuse. All right, so order of protections. Usually, an order of protection is granted either in family court or in criminal court when there is some sort of fight, argument, assault, or something of the like. Any person can go to the police and file a complaint against you, whether it's true or not. It's only an accusation, it's an allegation, and you will be arrested. And if you're arrested for some sort of domestic violence or an assault or anything fight-related, there will be an order of protection issued in favor of the person who is making the complaint against you, okay? All right, so how does that play out? It could be somebody you know, it could be somebody you don't know. A lot of times it happens in a familial setting, right? It could be your mother, a mother and a child. It could be a husband and a wife. It could be a brother and a sister. Okay, so usually, say for instance, you're a parent, your kid is acting up, you discipline him, you get into a fight with your child, and your kid calls the cops, and the cops come, and they arrest you. They arrest you for endangering the welfare of a minor, for assault, whatever the kid says you did, you hit them, things of that nature, right? You go to court, you go through the system, you get charged with a crime. You haven't pled guilty to anything. It's still an allegation, but the court is going to issue an order of protection in favor of your child. Now, there are a number of different types of order of protections. There's a full order of protection. A full order of protection means that you have to stay away from this person, where this person lives, where this person works, this person's children. You got to stay away from them. Full means not only you have to stay away from them, but you can't have third-party contact. That means you can't call your brother and be like, yo, I can't talk to that bitch. Can you call her and tell her? You can't do that, right? You can't have contact on social media. You think, oh, I got order protection. I can't call her. I'm going to inbox her on Facebook. No, that is a violation of the order of protection. Any contact or any third-party contact is a violation of the order of protection. And you know what else? You cannot go home. Right. A full order of protection means that wherever that person lives, and if that happens to be your kid who lives in your fucking house, you can't go back there because your kid is there. And according to the courts, you might be a threat to your child. Okay, so you can't go there. The same is true if it's a husband and a wife. Okay, you get into a domestic incident with your wife. The wife picks up the phone, calls the police. Police come, they arrest you. You cannot go back home. Because when you get processed in criminal court, the judge is going to issue an order of protection in favor of your wife, okay? And that means that you can't go back to your house, where you live, where you pay bills, rent, mortgage, all that shit, okay? Now, there are some provisions under the law that allow for what's called a limited order protection, okay? A limited order protection basically says you can be around that person, but you can't harass them, you can't alarm them, you can't assault them. There's a bunch of things you can't do while you're around them. Things you probably shouldn't do anyway, but the court is laying out specifically what you can and cannot do on a limited order of protection. Okay, so sometimes you might be able to go back home, but that order of protection is going home with you. So if you get a limited order of protection, that limited order is going home with you, and guess what? If you harass, alarm, annoy, or do anything like that to the person who has that order, all they got to do is pick up the phone. If they pick up the phone and they say, you violated the order, the police are going to come. Understand this. When there's an order of protection in place, the police don't have the discretion to sit down and go, so what happened? Let's sort it out and see if maybe they could get somebody to take a walk or, try to resolve the situation. That's not what's happening. If there's an order of protection in place in New York, it is a must arrest. The police are not asking you any questions. They see a valid order of protection in place, you're going to jail. And guess what? It's a felony. Yes, it is a felony to violate an order of protection. And guess what? The other side of it is, it doesn't take much. It's still an allegation, right? All the person has to do is say, you violated the order of protection. Now, you can fight it later on down the road, but at that moment, You're going to jail for a felony. And you're not going to be getting a limited order anymore. If you had one then, you'll have a full order then. Okay? Family court too. Any person, if you have a family issue, someone that you're related to, this extends to extended family as well. They could go to court and swear out an order of protection against you. And it's an ex parte application. Ex parte meaning that there's only one person that's saying to the judge, this is what happened. Okay, it's unopposed. You're not there. They are the only ones that are in court asking for this order of protection. And more likely than not, the judge is going to grant it. It'll be a temporary order, and at some point, you'll be able to come in later and contest the order. But at that moment, that judge is going to issue a temporary order of protection. And that means, again, once you get served with that order of protection, and you have to be served because you have to have notice that there is an order of protection. Once you get served, you can't be around that person. And if that person happens to live with you, you can go home. Okay? If that person happens to work with you, you might not be able to go to work. Ain't that a bitch? Yes, you would have to seek a limited order of protection. Okay? Sometimes you have children in common with someone who has an order of protection against you, right? Say you got you have an ex-wife, you got a wife, you got a baby mama, right? You have children in common, and there's an order of protection in place. You can't go see your kids. I don't give a fuck how mad that makes you. You cannot go see them. What you have to do is you have to go to family court, and you have to get a visitation order. Right? Because any order of protection that will be in place for your girlfriend, wife, baby mama, whoever she is, that order will be subject to a family court order that allows you to visit the kids. Okay? And the family court will then give you some visitation, but it will be parameters. Right? It might be visitation that has to be supervised. So now you can't see your kids unless there's another motherfucker in the room. Listen, I don't like it. I'm just telling you how it is, okay? And so this is why you have to really be cautious. You have to be careful, and you have to govern yourself in a certain way. If you know that you have strife with someone in your family, and y'all are getting into it, and it starts to escalate to the point where it becomes physical, somebody needs to walk away, and that somebody has to be you. Yes, you. Whoever I'm talking to, whoever's listening to these conversations, okay? It has to be you. One of you has to say, I'm going to de-escalate this. I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to go spend a night over at, Pookie House. Whatever the case may be, remove yourself from the situation, because when the police get there, you're going to jail. Okay? They're going to arrest you. It's a more safe than sorry situation, because no police officer, no judge wants to be on the front of anybody's newspaper explaining why you're dead, or explaining why you killed someone when there was an order of protection in place, or when the police responded but they didn't do anything. That is all too problematic in our country. You see it all the time. Women being killed, children being killed, men killing themselves, women killing men. There's no monopoly on it here. It goes both ways. Women can be just as vindictive and evil as men can be. And so you have to make sure that if you're in that situation, protect yourself. Leave. That's the best advice I can give you, is to leave. Remove yourself from the situation. You don't have to stay someplace where you are being pushed or provoked to do certain behavior and acts, because like I know there are some women who don't believe you love them until you bust them in the face, right? Okay, please, I promise you that that's not an expression of love, whether someone identifies with it or not. All right, so that's not what you want to do. Don't allow somebody to provoke you to the point where you're going to be spending the night in jail. That's not the way. Walk away. Because at the end of the day, you control you. You control you. So you get to walk away. And if you don't walk away, when you're sitting in that jail cell, you're going to be like, I wish I would have walked away. Okay? Because orders of protections are nothing to play with. The police officers do not play. If they see an order of protection in effect, guess what? It's a must arrest, and you're going to jail for a misdemeanor initially, maybe, and but could ultimately be a felony. Okay, so orders of protection can come from family court, they can come from criminal court, they can be full, meaning no contact whatsoever, no third-party contact whatsoever, or they can be limited, meaning that you can have some contact, but that contact has to be regulated. Okay, let me just say one thing to women, because I noticed that a lot of women are using the system, manipulating the system, and going and getting order protections that they shouldn't have. And then what they do is they have that order protection, and the man knows there's an order protection, but y'all got that unhealthy love, right? And so even though you got an order protection, you want to call him over and invite him over. Okay, fellas, let me tell you something. If a woman has an order protection against you and she invites you over, do not go. I don't give a fuck how good the pussy is and all of that bullshit, because if that's the type of relationship you have where there's an order protection, 10 minutes after you get there, y'all gonna be fighting again. And guess what? She gonna call the police again. And you know what? It's no defense to you that you were invited over. Okay? It's still a violation of the order of protection, even if the person who's supposed to be protected is saying, I don't want to be protected anymore. It's too late. It's not up to you. Now it's up to the courts. Okay? Once you get the courts involved in your personal life, you can't then just say, well, I don't need y'all no more. That's not how it works. Okay? So you want to troop on over there thinking that shit is all sweet. And then you get there and it's all good for the first 10, 15 minutes, right? And then you go back into the same patterns that you had before. Next thing you know, you have a fight. Maybe it don't happen that day. Maybe it's the next day. Maybe it's the next week. But that order of protection is still in place. And now you feeling some sense of false security because you back home with your girl, until the next fight. All right? It doesn't matter that someone invites you. Okay? You can't tell the police, she fucking told me to come over here. Ain't nobody make you go over there. Don't go. If there's an order of protection, just don't go. All right? All right. So orders of protection can last from 1 year to 5 years. All right? And initially, when the order of protection issued, is a temporary order. Because remember, usually it's an accusation or an allegation, and you haven't been adjudicated as having done the things that are specified in the order of protection, right? And so you can fight it, and ultimately, if you beat the case, or you're able to overcome some evidence in family court, you could have the order of protection dropped. That's possible, okay? But if you're not, and say you plead guilty to some sort of assault crime, a misdemeanor, or even sometimes if you take a disorderly conduct, there will be a permanent order of protection in place. Now, while your case is pending in criminal court or your case is pending in family court, that order of protection will be temporary. It'll be renewed. Every time you go to court, they will renew it till the next time you come to court until that matter is adjudicated. And then once it's adjudicated, depending on the level of adjudication, whether you pled guilty to a felony, an A misdemeanor, or B misdemeanor, that will determine how long the final order of protection is in place. And again, depending on the level of the crime, it could be anywhere from 1 year to 5 years. Okay, and that means that person can have you on the hook for 5 whole years. And when I say on the hook, it means because it only takes a phone call. It only takes a phone call to the police to say, he called me. Yeah, picking up the phone is a violation of the order of protection. When I say no contact, I mean no phone contact, no text messages, no periscoping, no Facebook, no Instagram, none of that. No contact whatsoever. Okay, so that person really will have you on a very short leash, especially if you have children in common with somebody like that, right? Because then every time you go to visit your children, you pretty much need to be on pins and needles. Because if you say something wrong, you do something wrong that's perceived as a threat, they can call the police and have you arrested. All right, order protections are they're very serious business. If somebody gets one on you, you need to be very aware what your rights are. All right, so make sure that you don't get lulled into violating an order of protection because you felt comfortable and you wanted to go home. No, that's not happening. All right. Okay, so that's order of protection. I'm gonna hope it's helpful because I see a lot of it. I see parents getting arrested for disciplining their children, and then there's an order of protection, and then you as a parent can't go home. That's some bullshit. But that's the law. right? Because the premise is that the law or the courts are attempting to protect your child from you. Yeah, I know, but that's how it works. Unfortunately, that is how it works, and I say unfortunately, but you know, there are children who are abused by their parents, you know, and there are some parents who don't need to go to fuck back home because you're a horrible parent, right? You don't need to be around your kids because you're a horrible parent and you're doing them more harm than good. So there are some parents who need to be under an order of protection. So I say it with an abundance of caution because they do serve some purpose. Obviously, there are some people who need orders of protection. They need to be protected. Not that piece of paper gonna protect you, but at least if you have that piece of paper, the person who's threatening you when they come around and you shoot them, then at least you got that you got that piece of paper to say, listen, I told y'all I was afraid and that he was threatening me, and he came again, and I had no recourse. I had to defend myself. But get that piece of paper before you defend yourself, because you always want a paper trail. I'm not suggesting that you shoot anybody. Let me just say that again, disclaimer. But I'm going to tell you from personal experience, I'll be damned if I'm going to live my life in the shadow of fear. So if there is someone who is threatening you and you have an order of protection against them, and they continue to threaten you, you have the right to defend yourself. Okay? Now, we're going to talk about self-defense at another time, but let me just say this right quick. Self-defense is not when you've had a moment of reflection and then you go, I'm going to get that motherfucker back. That's not self-defense. That's retribution. Okay? Please understand the difference. Self-defense is when you are in the heat of the moment and you are responding to a perceived threat. And we'll talk about that later. I don't want to get into it now, but it's not you sitting home contemplating how you're going to get a motherfucker back. That's not self-defense. Okay? All right. So that's order of protections. You guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Facebook. Facebook. And I got a lot more that I want to share with you guys, and I will be doing that in the coming days. You already know I love you. I really do. Ike speaks. Govern yourself accordingly. Okay? Order of protections are no joke, and you want to be able to go home because it gets expensive to live in a hotel, or it gets really uncomfortable living on other people's couches. All right? All right, govern yourself accordingly. Ike speaks.